Okay, so I'm here with the amazing Zion,
Alright, guys.
a young legend, to do an interview of experience of working together in the coaching dynamic, but also just actually the relationship. You know what I mean, in general. So yeah, Zion is a digital creator, but like more than that, he's amazing human being with incredible enthusiasm, energy, creativity, dynamism. He's like, yeah, carry on, keep
Yeah,
going, keep
going.
going.
I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it. You know what I'm saying?
And just great wisdom as well. An incredible leader and great dreams and purpose that you move with. So we're gonna have fun, just exploring, reminiscing as it were, or looking back and seeing what comes through. So if I was to take you back to like kind of where we knew each other for like 6 months, a little bit of
Yeah.
context, before we
Yeah.
started working together in the coaching capacity,
Yeah.
met at an event and, did a little bit of work together.
Yeah.
You helped me do some filming and different things like that,
Yeah.
and came to some of my events. And
Yeah.
but what was it like that kind of interested you in working together in a paid or one-to-one
Yeah.
coaching capacity?
That's a good question, to be fair. I think for the most part, it was kind of like, at least for me, it was like a kind of logical step. I think for me, there was a lot of. Obviously, it took me a while to get there. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it wasn't like I immediately just immediately said yes, but it was like a kind of thing where I think at that point in my life, I was like searching for answers in different things, and I needed some direction. I feel like for me, there's a lot of raw potential, but sometimes that potential needs to get molded into certain areas to kind of let it kind of come out in the way it needs to. So I feel like for me, there was a lot of having to kind of find ways to mold myself, especially because I wasn't, in like say standardized education or anything like that at the time. So I kind of needed that place of like, all right, cool. If I'm not getting it from education, I need to find a way to kind of mold myself through something. And so kind of from working with you before and past conversations that we'd had and stuff like that, I'd seen a lot of benefit with kind of your approach to things and kind of the way you thought it was similar to me and kind of like different things, the lessons you taught me from before. I was like, okay, cool. You know what? There's wisdom to be gained here, and there's something tangible that I could gain from kind of being around you and kind of being in your spaces and stuff like that. So there was benefit to kind of being in kind of in your orbit in a way. So I was like, all right, cool. You know what? Let me take this further. And I was asking God, just like, God, all right, cool. What do you want me to do? Is this the next logical step? And I was like, yeah, like, I felt at peace with that kind of being in that position. I felt peace with kind of that taking that route. So I was like, okay, cool. And then yeah.
Well, what you have mentioned, a couple, but if you go into a bit more like kind of specifics, like at the time, what specific challenges, and situations were you kind of going through, at that time, to even be in consideration?
Yeah, at that time, so like kind of like the year prior, like it was like a big whole family issue. Kind of lost my little brother and everything like that. So like I was kind of dealing with that and going through those type of things the year before. So I was kind of like, well, yeah, the year before. So I was kind of like going through that and kind of coming out of that. But then I was also in a kind of period of my life where I was working for a bit, kind of left that job because I wasn't really being fulfilled in that place, and I wasn't really. I think it gave me a level of structure, but it wasn't the structure I needed. And so I kind of was like, okay, cool. This place is good for what it's worth, but it's not giving me what I really need, and it wasn't fulfilling me where I needed to be fulfilled. So I kind of pivoted from there, and then for a while I was kind of doing my own thing, working on myself, but there was still that kind of calling and needed for stability, kind of having something to work towards. You know what I mean? I think at that point in time, me kind of finding clients and finding people to work with, or finding, people that could kind of stimulate me mentally, but then also kind of give me that direction to be like, okay, cool, this is what you need to do. These are the things that are going on in your life, and kind of break it down for you and kind of explain it to you in a way that makes sense. I think for me, sometimes when you're going through things, like even just kind of not even necessarily not even necessarily something bad, but when you're going through something and you're going through life, sometimes you need an external person to kind of talk to you and be like, okay, this is what you're going through, this is what your thoughts are, and kind of explain to you your own thoughts. Because sometimes having to do that kind of job to kind of pass your own thoughts and kind of sift through and decode and analyze, sometimes it's a bit too much. So having someone external to do that for you is like, okay, cool, that makes sense, and then helps you get to conclusions quicker so that you can move forward. So I think for me, that was kind of one of those things with kind of looking at my life, looking at what I was doing, looking at kind of where I was going and what I wanted to do, and kind of in terms of like my business and finding clients and kind of who I wanted to serve, kind of trying to figure that out and kind of look at that struggle and say like, okay, cool, what are the logical steps that I need to take to kind of get to that outcome?
So it sounds like to me, and obviously just remembering that time as well, right? Like it was kind of in your head about like, okay, I know I've got like this skill set, and you know, I want to help people with you know making content and you know putting themselves out there, but it's like, you know, you got the ideas and it's kind of like going around in your head, and it's like, but where do I start? And then it's like, how do I deal with the thoughts about life, and do you know what I mean, and the fear and kind of feeling.
It's like a puzzle. It's like you have like all these pieces, but it's like where do I start? What's the first puzzle piece to put down that you know all the rest of the puzzle pieces can connect to, so that we can get the bigger picture. You know what I mean?
So what was the it's that kind of, I like how it always leads into the next question. So what was like a moment, more so in the beginning, that like kind of really like stuck with you, you know, that really made a difference in opening up that clarity for you, particularly we'll say around like the business and that purpose that you wanted to live into?
I think the biggest purpose, I think if we don't really look at the genesis of it, you know, it really started with, we took a family holiday to Turkey, and that was in December. So it was like 2 weeks before, I think during the Christmas period, and then we took 2 weeks out in Turkey and everything like that. And I remember I was in the hotel gym and I was working out, and I was talking to God. I was like, God, like, you know, what should I do? I want to do this and that. And I was listening to a sermon by this preacher, Andrew Womack, and he was talking about, it was called Your Place Called There. And he was talking about the story of Elijah and everything like that, and kind of like how God brought his provision at every stage and everything like that. And like he only told Elijah, okay, cool, you need to go there. And Elijah would listen. He didn't tell Elijah like, oh, you need to, if you go there, you're gonna do this and do that, and tell him everything that was gonna happen there. It's like, no, go here first. Do this first, and then the rest of instruction and everything that will follow. But you need to first obey the first instruction. Don't worry about what's going to happen when you get there. Just get there first, and then see what happens. It kind of leads inside one of your sayings. Kind of show up and then respond to what shows up. That's one of the biggest lessons I think I ever got from you. But that's kind of the genesis of me kind of understanding that. Alright, cool. There's a place where I need to be, and I'm trying to get there, and it's like. That for me was that moment where I was looking at myself like, okay, cool, this is where I need to be. And then kind of meeting you onwards from that, in 2023, and kind of going to those events, it kind of started like a rolling ball of, okay, cool, this is of just different places of, okay, cool, I don't know about this and whatever, but let me just go there. I went to Leadership Catalyst, that event you had, and I was like, okay, cool, I learned a lot from there. Then, I was like, okay, cool, this guy's calling my phone. Why is he calling me? like, I don't know what he wants from me. He's saying, all right, cool. Let me just hear him out. Oh, okay, cool. Saying he wants to coach me. I'm like, I don't know about that. Last time I checked, I don't play football, so I don't think I need a coach. You know what I mean? But, he's like, all right, cool, he wants to coach me. So I'm like, all right, cool, let's talk about this. I'm not really one for coaching, more for conversations, but we had conversations. I was like, okay, cool. And then, it's just a lot of times of just kind of showing up to like different spaces and different times and different events where you're called to in life. And the more and more you're like, okay, cool, I'm learning from this guy. I'm hearing a lot, I'm doing a lot. And that eventually led me to, all right, cool, let's work together. And then not even just working together, but okay, cool, me doing what I wanted to do in terms of, okay, cool, me filming, me doing, graphic design and stuff like that, me doing kind of like the media stuff that I wanted to do, that it led to that. and it got to that stage, and so it was about just showing up to like different points and different places where you're called to, and just showing up to those things, and then you deal with it as you get there, and then the more you show up, you know, the more you can achieve and more you can see. But it's about first showing up to those places.
And it's cool to like it's kind of looking back on the relationship in general, because when I called you that first time, it was like kind of I want to coach you, but actually it was more like let's just go to events in it. Like you want to do digital content creation for people that like I wanted help with that. And I was like, cool, if you just come with me to this event, it's going to be good just to be in these different spaces, you know, meet different people. We went to like entrepreneurship events and like leadership stuff and awards events, you know, and it was really cool just like going together and just being in that energy. I was like, no, this is a really amazing guy. I just like to be around him, you know, very fun, very enthusiastic, sees great things. And then more that I could see then what else you could create. And then when we started working together, it was like, well, why didn't you just do this for people? Like, why don't you just actually, you know, help people create content, you know what I mean? And create videos and put their brand out there, as it were, you know? So that was one of the coolest things when you then did that and started actually working with people, like individually, like, on a paid basis.
You know? And that was even the thing for me. I feel like you kind of need, you know, it's a seed. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like even the Bible says, you know, first the seed, then the ear, then the stalk, then the ear of corn. You know, it's a progress. You know, I probably butchered that, but you know, it's a process.
It's all good.
You know what I mean? It's a process. You know, you go from the seed and you go to each next step. You know what I mean? And so for me, it was kind of like I had to go through those steps and stages to kind of get to where I'm at now. You know, working with different people and kind of having that, you know, paid capacity. It all started off from kind of having someone lay that seeds, you know, in you to be like, ah, cool, you know, you should do this. And it's like, okay, cool, how do I do this then? Because you will always hear people say, oh, you should do this, you should do that. But then when someone who's there kind of, in a way, some people kind of drop the seed and then leave you to nurture it by yourself and be like, okay, cool, you know, you should do this. And then they just leave and it's like, all right, cool, but you said I should do it. You didn't tell me how I'm gonna do it. You didn't think, like, I don't know if I should, you know what I mean? Like, you just said, oh, I could tell people to do a lot of things, you know what I mean? But he was like, yeah, you should do this. And then he actually helps nurture the growth of that seed into kind of where it is now. And obviously it's still growing. I'm still doing different things and trying to elevate. But in the idea of at least, he didn't just leave me with the idea. He actually helped me grow, you know, that seed and help me nurture it to a point where it's like, okay, cool, now I can, I'm learning how to take care of that seed in myself. And then I'm at a point where it's like, in some ways, the handover where it's like, okay, cool, you know what, I'm giving you now this plant for you to kind of nurture this crop and see what you do with it and everything like that. So it's like, he didn't leave me to kind of do things by myself necessarily. He was there to kind of walk me through it so that I could be in a position, you know, to get what I need. It's like, it's a kind of teach a man to fish type.
What would you say was some of the, you know, like specific things that, you know, you felt were really impactful in that, like that nurturing, right? The specific things that maybe you learned about, or specific things that, you know, I pointed you towards, or, you know, I'm just curious actually, to be honest.
I think the biggest thing, obviously, you know, is the kind of the, you know, show up and respond to what shows up. That was like a big revelation for me, because I was just like, I think for me, I get stuck in the planning. And for me, I like to plan. I like to plan for every, you know, every little thing that could go wrong or every little thing that could happen. I've got a solution for it. And when you get bogged down in the planning like that to the minutiae, it's like, all right, cool, where you don't ever execute because you're always thinking of, okay, this could happen, that could happen, that could happen. And so you stop yourself and you stagnate yourself because you're like, oh, I can't go and do this because I haven't planned for it. All right, cool, let me plan and wait. And it's like you never actually end up actioning what you need to do. And then sometimes the whole idea of thinking about planning distracts you so much that you get bogged down, and so you don't even end up planning. You know what I mean? So you get debilitated from the planning, and so you don't end up planning, and then you're just there, just like, and then when it comes to actually doing things, like, no, but I can't do this thing because I haven't planned. So it's like, it's a whole kind of, in some way, a vicious cycle where it's like, all right, cool, you never actually end up doing anything. And so for me, that was the thing that kind of I had to learn how to come up from, and that you kind of teach me how to do that. It was like, okay, cool, that gave me a perspective to be like, okay, cool, you know what? There's a space for planning, but there's also a space for, all right, cool, you know what? Let's do something else. Let's learn to action things. Let's learn to kind of go forth with things and just kind of show up regardless of whatever's going on. Just show up. Just be there. Be there, be available. And then you can get whatever you need to get from it, you'll get from it. And then, you know, the time for you to do the planning and the time for you to do everything else will come. But don't stop yourself from, you know, being in certain spaces because you feel like you're not ready. You know, you're more for the right people. You are ready. You know, that's another thing that I learned. You know, for the right people, you are ready. You know, I feel like in many different areas in life, that is something that is true. You know, that is a big truth. You know, for the right people, you are ready. You know, they will see that and they'll see that worth and that value, and they'll be like, okay, cool, let me tap into that. But you know, it's fine with not being ready for the wrong people because at the end of the day, they're the wrong people. So I don't need to be ready. I don't need to be ready for you because right now you're not going to be conducive to whatever growth I'm going through. For the right people, they're the ones who're supposed to be around. So as long as I'm ready for them, fine.
I remember that as well, like that. Because the cool thing about this work is like, you know, when you see it, it's like I see it as well.
Yeah.
So this is all like I'm learning always in this. Well, I told you it's a two-way street. It's not just I'm here just teaching and whatever. It's like no, I'm here to learn. And then that whole thing about like when the people who was for you are for you, and actually you know way more than you think. Like that's a thing that you know we can get innocently bogged down in. Like 100%, including myself. It's like oh no, I'm not ready yet, or I want to work these people, I'm not ready. It's like, you know what, you kind of do yourself a disservice because if you slow down, like you know way more than you think. But because we're in that specific field maybe, and we see the other people who are know a little bit more or whatever, we compare ourselves to them rather than comparing to people who are not even in the field at all, who we would actually be serving. You know, really dope. So, that's these questions. In what ways has our work helped you view your life or work differently? And I know we've spoken kind of about that anyway in regards to the business thing, but maybe outside of business, you know, just like in life in general.
Yeah, just looking at life, like, you know, well, it's not official yet.
I wasn't even trying to pivot there, you know. Like.
It's not official yet, but now, like, just kind of like, in terms of relationships and stuff like that, I feel like that's been a big revelation for me. Like, you know, talking to people and kind of having that understanding of, you know, like we said, the right when you're ready for the right people, you know what I mean? Like, being that person and being ready for the right people is important. You know what I mean? Like, even in relationships with people that I'm, like, a person I'm talking to now, like, you know, she is the right person. You know what I mean? And I came in at a time and, like, I was ready, you know what I mean? I was ready not only as who I was at that point, but also ready to learn, you know what I mean? To learn and to adapt, to become, you know, even more of that person for her. So that when she sees me, she's like, yeah, no, that's him, that's the guy. And so when she looks at me, she's like, oh yeah, you know what, that's the guy that, you know what I mean, I want, you know, like this type of things that we've spoken about, you know what I mean, just between me and her, like, it makes you realize that, yeah, you know what, the right people are the right people for that reason, you know what I mean? So even just in life, even like kind of dealing with people in terms of learning about leadership, learning, being in certain roles, you know, when I'm working with people or just when I'm, you know, just in daily life, being able to take charge, you know, choosing how I choose to lead people, kind of leading in a way that doesn't hamstring a person, but also it kind of enables them to be like, all right, cool, you've got deadlines, you can do certain things. So it gives you that space. So, you know, being kind of molding myself as a leader, that's one thing that I've always said is important to me. You know what I mean? Because I always find myself in a leadership role. So it's like, how can I be as a leader? Who am I as a leader? Those type of things there. Yeah, it's important. So learning that and kind of having that awareness or having that learning and teaching and then taking that into the real world and then actioning that in other areas of life outside of business. Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been to help learn different things. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, some of your teachers help you get a girl, so what can I say? Like,
listen, we don't put that. That's not in the promises. You know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
But
it's added bonus. You know what I mean? Like, bonus content. You know what I mean? Tap in people. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you get a little bit of bonus content out there. You know what I mean?
But it is the truth though, because when we're talking about transformation or transformative work. Right, it's on a level of being, and that being affects everywhere. Like the way you are one place, like is the way you are everywhere. If you're not taking leadership in business. Well, guess not. You're not taking
Yeah.
leadership in relationships. Like that's just
Yeah.
what's happening. And,
Exactly.
And as you shift that within yourself,
Yeah.
and it was really cool. It was actually really cool to see how, you'd seen, this person, and it's like I can see something there, but I'm sure you look back now to that time and realize, oh, there was still some things I had to kind of shift within
sure,
myself. And then as that's happened,
Yeah.
it's you know what I mean, come together in that way.
No, for sure. Like even with her, like even conversations I've had with her, like talking about, like say like, disclaimer, I am younger than her, but yeah, like she's always like, younger guys, they always seem a bit childish and but meeting me, she was like, oh, you're different. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people end up seeing that difference. Shout out to one of my friends. She's always telling me, "Oh, you're such a different guy. Like you're not like other guys out there." Da, 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 da. And she'll always remember that. So hey, look, she's even older than me. So it's like, I guess they see something that maybe I wasn't seeing at that time. But like being in those spaces and being kind of around those people, it's like they're able to see things in you. And like she would always say that, like a lot of young guys that she met, they come off a bit childish, they come off a bit, young, immature. You know what I mean? And being able to see kind of the maturity in me, there was obviously some immature parts, you know what I mean? But there's some parts about that I had to kind of learn and I had to, kind of help out with stuff with money. You know what I mean? Me and you had so many conversations about money in terms of business, but then those things trickle out into life, I remember listening to, after talking to you, I think 1 week, I was even listening to a sermon, and in the sermon they talk about basically, if you sow sparingly, you reap sparingly. You know what I mean? You can't plant one apple seed and think you're going to get a whole forest. It's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? It's, you get out what you put in. You know what I mean? So it was kind of that thing where, even with relationship-wise, if you want to get out more from a relationship, you got to put in more. It's just basically, it's cause and effect. You know what I mean? So for me, it was one of those things where I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to start putting in more. And when I started putting in more, I started gaining more. You know what I mean? I started receiving more, you know what I mean? I started doing more things, saying, okay, cool, let me buy you this or do this for you, da, da, da. And just like that, she was more open to different things. She started doing things for me. And so it was, it's like a just a, cause and effect. It happened. I put in, I go out.
But that's also like the leadership piece as well, you know what I mean? Because these are things that you wanted to do, but like maybe hadn't done for whatever reason, but like as that stuff falls away, it's just like, I'm stepping into that, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I'm putting it out there, and it's something I'm really I'm really proud of you, man. Like
appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm like for real.
I'm getting all the plaudits today.
It's a beautiful thing to see. Like you're always amazing. Like that's a given. But like that leadership thing particularly, because when we had that one session about it, and it was like, oh, you remember it? It was upstairs somewhere, And it was like, oh, that's a thing. And I could tell it resonated, and you really like grown into that in your relationship, in your work. And I want, tell the people about the work now, what you was doing, the other day in terms of this digital content creation, which you initiated that idea as well. Like you brought that to the table, obviously it took a whole team of people to do it and whatnot.
Of course.
But
no, it was, so the other week we got to film with, Alex Iwobi, former Arsenal Academy graduate, played in the first team for a while. Went on to, I believe, Everton, and after Everton, he's playing now for Fulham. Plays also for the Nigerian national team. You know what I mean? So we were able to do an interview with him, and we were able to kind of go to his house, see the lifestyle that he's living now, but then also take him back to his roots, you know what I mean? And have like a proper interview, and it went really well. It went really well. And kind of having those spaces, even to the capacity, even now we're looking at more different footballers and different athletes in general to work with them. We've got some big ones in the way, you know what I mean? So,
man.
Arsenal fans,
I won't be able to get him too much longer.
I think maybe the Arsenal fans might be a bit happy with some of the ones.
Okay.
Out, so that's just a little secret, innit? But yeah, no, it's really good. Like I feel like working with the guys that I'm working with, shout out B2R, little plug. But working with the guys I'm working with and being in those spaces, I feel like, and learning from you enabled me to kind of go to these guys and lead and be like, all right, cool, you know what, you guys in your company are doing well, but I feel like we can do more, we can do different things. And then through our talks, we were able to bring to fruition those ideas. So it all started with learning and like taking leadership. You know what I mean? And if I hadn't learned how to be a leader, if I hadn't learned how to lead others, how to think about leadership, how to think about business, how to think about working with people, if I hadn't learned those things, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in the same position that I am now. I'd be somewhere else. And that's the thing with kind of learning those things and, you know, going through that process. You go through that process so that it affects every other area in life. You know what I mean? It doesn't just affect one area, you know, it affects your whole being, you know what I mean? Because it's a mindset thing. And everything is tied to your mindset. Depending on how you think about certain things will determine how far you go in certain areas, what you can do, what you can't do. You know what I mean? Your limitations start up here. So if you limit yourself up here, you will act in a limited way. You know what I mean? You can only act in how you think. You know what I mean? If I look at a bottle now and I say it's blue, but it's actually yellow, I will always think it's blue. And so I will always prescribe it as blue and I won't think of it as anywhere else. If I think, oh, I can't cross, you know, the road because it's somehow unsafe, I will never cross that road because forever my mindset, until that mindset changes, that road will always be unsafe to me. You get what I'm saying?
And that's the power of like, you know, insight. That's why this you know, this work really shifted things for me. And this is the way the growth has always happened, but I just learned in this work more of a conscious understanding of it. That innocently, I have a perspective of the world, and within that perspective, I have limitations. So naturally, if I don't think I can do something, I'm not going to do it. If I don't think I'm the type of person to take leadership inside of a company where I've just started work and I'm not going to do it. And that's all innocent, unrecognized. And someone can tell me that, but I have to see that for myself. Is where it really has the power, and that's why it's so cool. Like, you know, because I've seen the realizations you've had. Obviously, only some of them, because you know, you go away and you live your life and more happen. But to see how that's fallen away from you, you've seen it for yourself, and then how it's actually, you know, translated or manifested into, you know.
Well, of course, it's one of those things where, you know, you're only as good as how you think you are, really and truly. If you don't think you're good enough for certain things, you just won't be. Not because you aren't, but because you don't believe you can do certain things. Like we said before, your mind limits you. So whatever limitations you have in your mind is it's gonna translate into your life. So as a result of that, kind of me learning those things and those insights allowed me to manifest those things in life. Why? Because I was able to see those things as possible for me to do. I was able to see those as, okay, this is a possibility for me. You know what I mean? But if I didn't think it was a possibility, it just wouldn't happen. So it's needed, you know what I mean, to have those insights, to have those mindsets, to change those mindsets. You know, the ability to change is a good ability. You know what I mean? If you aren't able to change, you stagnate. You know what I mean?
It's an ability to change your mind is one of the most powerful abilities. But it's to you know your mind, and it's always an ongoing knowing. This is all like an ongoing thing.
Exactly.
But if you don't, like, that stuff is just there in the way.
If you don't move, you die. Simple as. It's as simple as that. You know what I mean? If you stay in one place for too long, you die.
And on the flip side, the soul or the intuition, or what we want to say, like, it's calling you.
Yeah.
It's calling you for something. I didn't tell you. Nobody else told you to be a digital content creator, and you wanted to. It was a knowing that was there already, and it wants to be lived and experienced, and just those kind of innocent thinking that's in the way, as that falls away, it just emerges.
Exactly, and that's why.
So I'll finish it on a last couple questions. So how would you describe the difference now to like when we started?
You not see me like the drip is a lot better.
Ask the question.
Like the beard's glistening, the skin's smooth, clothes are better. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you should have seen me on the Saturday night. You know what I mean? Saturday night, I'm doing my bits. You know what I mean? But no, it's true. Like in even small things, like even bring it to like the way I dress. I dress a lot differently. You know what I mean? Having to be in certain spaces when I've come out with you and done filming, it taught me a lot. It's like, okay, cool. You know what? One thing my dad taught me is one thing that I learned from him is that you dress how you want to be addressed. You know what I mean? And I took that from life. You know what I mean? You dress how you want to be addressed. You go to certain spaces, like all I had back then, all I had in my wardrobe was track bottoms. So you always see me, even if it's a nice looking track bottom, it's still a track bottom. But now I've got different things. I might have a little chino, might have a different types of
you
things.
got
to wear.
pockets, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we've got pockets, like,
versatility.
I can do different things. I show up different. I look different. And now when people see me, they're like, oh, okay, you look like that. You look different. And they perceive you differently. You get what I'm saying? So learning the control you have over your perception and how it really is down to you on how you're perceived and how people look at you and stuff like that. It allows you, or it spurs you on to change, you know what I mean, to get better results from people.
But it's
You get what I'm saying?
but it's one thing like to let me dress differently, but it's another thing is when you actually feel it yourself, because that's what I say, like fake it till you make it. The issue is that it's fake, right?
Yeah.
But when
it is you,
when it is you, and you know that as you, and then you
live that out, it's different. It's a different feeling. No, it really is.
Yeah.
Like I've had people see me and they look at me like, oh, like one of the biggest compliments. I was out and I was on my way to a shoot that I was doing for a relative, and I was there on the train. I was taking the Jubilee, and I got on the train, and I saw, I think it was one of my close friends. I think they either got on the train or they were already there. And as they got on, I was like, "Oh, you right, my bro?" So that's my friend, everything like that. I was like, "Yeah, good." And then he told me, "It's like, oh, I like the outfit. You're looking good." I was like, "Oh, I appreciate it. You know what I mean? We're trying out here. We're trying to do our thing." And so he saw that and it was good. But then on top of that, it was also a thing of afterwards speaking to him. We were just kind of like having a conversation, me, him, and one of my other close friends. We were talking. And he was saying that, Zion's dressing a lot differently now. Like he's looking sharp out here. It's like that compliment of like he's seen me. It's like, oh, like I can see there's a difference in you. I can see you're carrying yourself differently. You look differently. You feel different. I was like, oh, okay then. You know what I mean? This is different. And this is he can actively see and perceive the difference in me. And I was like, oh, okay, this is new. This is me. They can see that there's a new me there, and that that me is a serious thing. So I was like, that's one of the biggest compliments I could have ever gotten. I was like, oh, okay, like so they see me. People are actually seeing me as, oh, okay, you're that type of person. And when people see me outside, they're like, oh, okay, they perceive me in a certain way. And I was like, okay, cool, it's nice. It feels good. You're like, okay, cool. You know what? I am him a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you are. You are
know
him.
what I'm saying? Like,
you are him.
You look at yourself a lot differently. You feel a lot different. You're like, okay, cool. You know what? This is who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like for me, that was a big thing for me. That was a really big thing to kind of receive that compliment and for people to kind of look at me differently. You know what I mean? And to be like, okay, cool. Now this guy is really on his job. He's really on his shit. And so I was like, I appreciate that a lot.
That's beautiful, man. I just I'll not too much to say beyond that. I'll just ask the final question. Would you recommend working with me, and if so?
Okay, so I'm gonna stop you right there.
Alright.
Of course. If you're not already, bro, and you've gotten this far in the video, I don't know what you're doing. Really, I would have picked up the phone a long time ago. The number's gonna come up here on screen. Call charges may vary. You know what I mean? If you're using a landline, but mobile phones, it depends on your carrier. So the number will come on screen. You know what I mean? If not, DM me. You know what I mean? Prince of BK. You know what I mean? I'll hook you up. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Cheap price. You know. But no, of course I would. We were working together with you brought a lot of things into my life. So I'd always recommend working with you and everything like that. I feel like there's a lot to be gained from working with you. You know what I mean? There's a lot to be gained. There's a lot to be seen, and to give you your plaudits. Like you are, the way you look at life, the way you see things, the stuff that you're doing, you are an amazing, amazing person. And I feel like the people who don't know, they need to get to know. You know what I mean? Come on, don't be silly. Let's be real. You know what I mean? This guy, I've seen the truth before, but this is the truth. And if you don't believe it, then you're a lie. That's really it. Like, this man is the truth, and I feel like you need to kind of tap in, because his insights into things and the way he sees the world will have you looking at things differently. And then, not just looking at things differently, but you will learn a lot, and it will change your outlook on things so that you can do more and you can see more. You know what I mean? I feel like that's, that is, it's funny, we always like Dubem. The first two letters of your name, Do. You after meeting Dubem, you do a lot more than what you were doing before. You do a lot more because you're able to look at things differently. He will change your mindset. So being, like he calls himself, he is a leadership catalyst. He is that catalyst between where you are now and where you want to be. He is a catalyst for change. So I would always advocate for him, and always advocate for people to kind of tap into him, tap into his work, look into what he's doing, and kind of, see what you can get for yourself. You know what I mean? I'm only one person. You can hear me and talk and be like, this guy is chatting, man. He's gassing up the thing. No, like, see for yourself, learn from yourself. You know what I mean? The truth is in the pudding. You know what I mean? And I'm a man who eats, so you know what I mean. I can tell you the pudding's good. So yeah, tap in. I feel like everyone who has the chance to should go and really tap in with you, talk to you, and be like, all right, cool. Let me see what you're about, because when they see you, they will see the truth, and I feel like that is something that everyone needs in this world.
Right, thank you.
So yeah,
that's thank you. You moved me, with acknowledgement, like for real. I came into this game to be a service. I was guided, you know what I mean, to be a service. I'll say my full name is Chidu Bam, God leads me, and I just feel like, I went through going through so much, I know what the pain is like when you like, it's something I can do anymore, but like, why am I not doing it? You know what I mean? Having to learn these different things, and then, now being here sitting with you and just seeing, what I've been able to share with you, or just in our relationship, should I say, and what you've seen for yourself and the impact. Like that's means everything to me. Do you know what I mean? And I just want to, serve. Obviously, working people one-to-one, like, is one thing, but having a conversation. Do you know what I mean? I want to serve. I'm happy. So.
Of course, and you should be. I feel like it's one of those things where for you, I feel like you do live up to that name. I feel like God does lead you in a lot of things, and He led you to me to be able to help teach me and to kind of push me forward and help me with the things that I do. But I feel like you lead a lot of people, I feel like, into a greater understanding and everything like that. Seeing the type of people that you've worked with, seeing what they do and the insights they've gotten from you, it speaks for itself, really. It speaks for itself. I feel like you need to kind of be in that space, in that area, and I feel like for you, you occupy that space that not a lot of people are, occupying. I've always said from a young age that, in life, understanding is important. You know what I mean? And if you don't have understanding, it just doesn't work. It's like it reminds me of like King Solomon with the baby. It's like, if he didn't understand the situation, he could have messed up big time. But he had an understanding. He had knowledge. He could see things that other people couldn't see. And it's always those people that can see what isn't able to be seen by others that, those are the geniuses. You know what I mean? They see what's there and they see what can be made and what can be done. And then they do. You know what I'm saying? So you are a person that you do the things that people can't see. You do the things, you make the pass that people don't see. You know what I mean? Well, he's a real striker.
I'll first of all, I will receive that, and that means a lot. To be seen, as that, and I also want to reflect that, because what you see in me is what you see in yourself, and I can say to you, you have that, same amazing gift of encouragement and seeing possibilities, and creating things in the world and leading people to, a deeper, greater experience in life. So, my friend, my brother,
appreciate it.
We'll leave that there. Thank you everyone for watching. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.